I grew up believing that the world needed me.
Yeah, wow.
And that was something she instilled in me from a very young age. Not just, I want you to go out and join the broader world. She said things like that. I want you to live a better life than I've been able to have.
Yeah.
Or that I've been able to provide for you.
Yeah.
With complete humility. That's, But she convinced me from a very young age that the world needed me, that I needed to do something great with my life.
I got a secret. I'm about to meet with Jeremy Hannay, head teacher of Three Bridges Primary School in Southall, West London, aka the happiest school on earth. Jeremy has some fascinating insights on education, leadership, and everything in between. He doesn't do many interviews. I think he just let me in because I wear a blue suit and a blue shirt, just like him. So come on through where Jeremy's going to share some remarkable insights on education and leadership. I would encourage you to watch towards the end where we share some fascinating insights about how we can all become better versions of ourselves. Come on through.
Because I think you're right. That's why I agreed to this, because I have a lot of respect for you and what you're doing. But I think that there is a narrative that exists in the country about what people refer to, I refer to as like personal leadership resources, right? So optimism, resilience, positivity, these sorts of things we were just talking about. And I mean, the narrative across the country for education at the moment is bleak.
Yeah.
People saying I'm monitored all the time, I'm scrutinized for everything I do, I'm overworked, I'm underpaid, my pension, I might get it when I'm 75 or 80, the narrative across the country is like, I'm not trusted. I'm treated like I'm not a knowledge worker, I'm not in a knowledge economy, I'm treated like I have to be monitored and managed for everything. And I'm not sure, I know I didn't get into education for those things.
Sure.
Right? I wanted to be able to use my creativity, my passion, my intelligence, my love of children and life and learning to be able to make a difference.
Yeah.
Help young people uncover within themselves their very best.
Yeah.
And it's painful to know that at the moment is not the dominant narrative. That the dominant narrative is pessimistic and negative and unhappy. It's not great.
Yeah. And
so I think that it's really important that we shine a light on things that are real, that are going well. We're not we're not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
We learn a lot. We change all the time. But I think I would like to say I think we found a few steps in the right direction. And if those few steps, if listening to another head teacher for a head teacher or for a deputy head or for an aspirant leader or a teacher, if listening to someone who feels they've made a few steps in the right direction gives them the courage or the confidence or the anything to move one step in a different direction than they feel right now, well, that's a huge success, I would say.
Fantastic.
I think.
What was school? You grew up in Canada, right?
I did, yeah.
What was school like for you?
Yeah, mixed bag, I would say. So I grew up in a school, I grew up in a community and in a family situation very much like the ones that I serve now. So Three Bridges is an incredible place, a remarkable place, serving a very challenging community. One of our main estate is in the second percentile for crime and violence. 65% of our children come from the highest quintile of deprivation in the country. Lots of pupil premium, lots of free school meals, high level of English additional language, over 90% black minority ethnic. The challenges that are faced by this school and this community are, some people might say are insurmountable, they're really, really high. I went to a school like that as a kid, in a different country, albeit in a different country, but same kind of challenges. And I had a single parent, an incredible mother who, taught me so much by who she was. She didn't go to university, she didn't have a big fancy education, but she worked really hard. And I grew up believing that the world needed me.
Yeah, wow.
And that was something she instilled in me from a very young age. Not just, I want you to go out and join the broader world. She said things like that. I want you to live a better life than I've been able to have.
Yeah.
Or that I've been able to provide for you.
Yeah.
With complete humility. That's, you know. But she convinced me from a very young age that the world needed me, that I needed to do something great with my life. Because it was important that we all had a role to play. And so I didn't grow up in England, but in terms of context and situation, I grew up like a lot of these kids, and it was my mom and all of that, but really great teachers, great schools that helped shape my life today. And I knew from a very early age that one of the things I needed to do is to be able to pay that forward in some way, that I would not be where I am today, doing what I'm doing today, if it weren't for incredible schools and incredible people. And so that's the mission, right? That's absolutely it. That as a class teacher, I was responsible for a number of children in my care, making sure they got the very best experience. When I became a middle leader, I was responsible maybe for a team of people, adults and children, making sure they got the greatest experience here. As I've moved up and become a head teacher, it's slightly different. I think for me, the narrative is not only that the most important people in the school are our children, because I think that goes without saying. This is what we're here to do.
Sure.
But really, as a head teacher, I think that my job is to make sure that I take care of the people that take care of our people.
Got it.
You know, that if I'm not making sure that the environment here, the culture here, the ethos, the values, the culture in this building, if it is not in the right direction, if it is not an environment in which our adults can be nourished and flourish, then our young people have no chance.
Yeah.
No chance. And I was lucky that I grew up in a system and in a culture where that is a key priority. And so the adults in my life as school teachers, yes, were absolutely curriculum experts and able to focus on great lessons and great learning, but they were also able, in the environment that was created for them, to create an environment for me that allowed me to flourish because they were flourishing.
How is the environment in Canada in education different, and the culture around education different to over here, if it is different at all? Yeah,
it's a complex question, I guess. I mean, there are many differences, many similarities, many differences. I guess, you know, one of the key differences is the control and the autonomy that schools have in England is very different to that in Ontario. So in Ontario, schools are centrally managed. So there are school boards, and those school boards are funded and given direction from the Ministry of Education, so the government. So there's the government that gives information and money to the school boards distribute that money to schools. And people like me, head teachers, are not hired by schools. They're hired by, or they're promoted and grown within a school board, and then moved around every 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So that there's a spread of leadership, there's a spread of growth and development across the system.
Okay.
It also leads to consistencies. So what school A is doing, down the road school B is doing something quite similar.
Sure.
Teachers are given enormous amounts of autonomy. There is a provincial curriculum, and everybody is responsible to deliver that curriculum and assess towards that curriculum. But they are given the freedom within their classrooms and within their schools to be innovative, to be creative, to be courageous in ways that align with them as professionals and meet the needs of every child in the classroom.
Yeah.
In England, I would say that there is tons of autonomy for schools, but that autonomy sometimes I think can be false, because assessment, high stakes assessment, high stakes accountability measures and inspection very often steer the ship.
Sure.
So while we are all free to be who we want to be, we also need to make sure that we're free within inside this box. So you can be free, Jazz.
Yeah.
But don't make sure you're free like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's a very different message. So in Ontario, there are standardized tests that children take at relatively the same age they take in primary school here.
Yeah.
But they're not high stakes.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily drive the decision making in schools in the same way that they do here.
So I'm interested in that because you were saying earlier that schools here, head teachers here have massive degree of autonomy.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as a head teacher, nothing stands in my way. Nothing at all. I have a brilliant governing board, incredible chair of governors who help me vision the possibilities for this community and this school. But nothing is in our way.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things in every system, whether you're in Canada and here, Singapore, Finland. I mean, money always comes into the conversation, so I'm limited by budget, but we also then as a school raise a substantial income through advisory and consultancy, so we have a pocket of money that we can spend in a different way, or in excess to what we get from our usual funding pot. There are national tests, I said high stakes testing, the big O, national inspection frameworks,
I
and
love that language.
yeah, those things exist. And I mean, if I'm completely honest, there are staff in my school who have never heard the word Ofsted.
Wow.
Because I don't care what Ofsted thinks.
Yeah.
They have a framework of inspection, but schools inspection and schools improvement are not the same thing.
Got it.
They're not the same thing. And I think it's funny that narrative actually has been created in this country, that we've been taught to believe that to improve a school, we must inspect it.
Yeah.
We must monitor it, we must scrutinize it, we must get so granular, we must dig down into every tiny detail.
Is it about shifting the narrative from going to inspecting schools to how can we improve every school to be great?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't. Schools inspection has its place. Everything in education has its place. Testing has its place.
Yeah.
Assessment has its place.
Yeah.
Inspection, surveillance, monitoring, accountability has its place.
Absolutely.
But I think the unintended consequences of some of these larger factors like high stakes testing, the unintended consequences of inspection as a mechanism for improvement have not been well thought out, have not been well discussed, and are not being well enough considered in terms of the impact that it's playing in the everyday life of schools.
Yeah, I've got to say I love that big banner that you've got outside.
Sure.
It's just like, we are outstandingly happy.
Right.
It's like, that is gold, right?
And I mean, I absolutely see in our primary school that core purpose, we need to make sure without any doubt in anyone's mind that every single child that comes through these doors leaves here being able to read, write, and solve problems.
Yeah.
Crucial to our job as educators. And if we're not doing that, we are failing. There is no doubt in my mind about that. But anybody who thinks that is all we are here to do, is an idiot.
Yeah.
If I can be frank. That is not the only job. There is so much more going on.
What is the job of a great school, a great head teacher?
Oh, I mean, a great head teacher, I don't know. I mean, I'm still figuring it out, right? I think that if I ever get to a point where I think I have figured it all out, I need a new job. I need to do something different because I've lost my way.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching this really great video when I was coaching volleyball in Canada, and I was playing it to the athletes, and I mean, it was about a young man who had been injured in an accident, and he, was the top performer in university, about to graduate. Life was great. He was on to good things. Had an accident, and basically needed to start from scratch with his life. He had a brain injury. He was unable to walk, to talk. He had to relearn everything. And I remember watching this really incredible part of that sequence in that video. And the interviewer was talking to him and said, how is it that you are coming to grips with this situation? You had this one life, and now you're living this other. So many people in your same position would have given up by now. They would have said, forget it.
Yeah.
How is it that you're moving forward? And he looked at the camera, he looked over at the interview, and he said, I'm never satisfied. Whoa.
Love it.
Changed things for me.
Yeah.
Changed things for me as a coach, as a human being, as a leader. That I guess for me, that's one of the criteria to be, to run a great school. I'm never satisfied. And that doesn't mean I'm out in classrooms pointing fingers at people and saying, that's not good enough, I'm not satisfied. That's not good enough, I'm not satisfied. I think that's probably a recipe for disaster. But internally,
who you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, internally, the dialogue that's going on in my head is, if better is possible, good is never enough.
Yeah.
it's that same feeling. And so, yeah, I mean, what does a great head teacher look like? I don't know. I mean, I could talk about the people probably that led me, because I think that
because you had a lot of mentors, a lot of people that have.
I think that one of the ways to learn about greatness is to be immersed and surrounded by great people. It's also one of the ways, I think, to run a great school. How is Three Bridges successful? Well, one of the ways is because I hire people that are better than me.
Yeah.
They're better teachers than I was. They're better thinkers maybe at that time than I was. They've got great ideas. They're confident. They're courageous. They're out there. They're not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not afraid to learn.
Yeah.
And so I just surround myself with people who are not afraid to challenge me.
Yeah.
My thinking, my ways of doing things. I mean, there's a little poster probably right next to us here that says, the most dangerous phrase in our language is "it's always been done that way."
Yeah.
So surrounding myself with people who are not afraid to say, is that the right way?
Yeah.
Could we be doing this differently? Is there a more efficient, a better way? So, I mean, I guess, going back to that idea about being immersed and surrounded by greatness, I was blessed early on in my career to be, taken under the wing, standing on the shoulders of people who were remarkable. Charles Austin, one of Canada's outstanding principals, award winner.
Yeah.
When I had no business, being involved in school leadership or education at any deep degree or deep level, somebody like Charles saw the head teacher within me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a message for our schools. So when we talk about leading successful schools, one of our themes this year is leaning in.
Yeah.
About connecting with each other, with the community, with the children. And on, one of the subcategories of that concept, I think, is I see you.
Yeah.
That in a classroom of children, there are head teachers, there are doctors, there are nurses, there are bin men, there are, actresses, there are designers, there are all sorts of children in our classrooms.
I love the fact that you see that and you can visualize it before they've ever got anywhere near that.
But that's the key, isn't it? It's our job in primary school, in any level of education, I guess, is making sure that we see within our children the greatness, the excellence, the future before they see it within themselves. Yeah. And our job throughout schooling is to help them uncover that, right? Expose them to all sorts of different things so that they can find what they're most passionate about, what they enjoy, what they love, and then make a life of that.
Yeah, for certain. You mentioned that you had great mentors in Canada. Do you feel that that's something that is reciprocated enough, or is that something that you feel that in England we can do more of in terms of that peer-to-peer network support?
I think it's a great question. I think that for me there were informal things that happened. Yeah. And I don't, it worked for me. Yeah. I'm not certain that would be a great rule. Like, let's just hope it happens. Yeah. Are there ways that I think currently systems or schools or local authorities, MATs are set up to manage that? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There are great.
That's one thing that's been definitely stood out for me over the last 5-10 years is the coming together of head teachers and learning from each other. Yeah. I think that's been a big game changer, because before, 20 years ago, it was very common for head teachers to sit in their school, stay there for 20 years, and not relate to many other people outside of that institution.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's dangerous. If I stay in this office, all day, every day, I'm never out, I'm never asking questions, I'm never seeing what's going on in other schools, I'm never learning and absorbing from other head teachers, we're in trouble. Yeah. We're in trouble. And so I make it a point to visit a number of schools every year, to be connected to head teachers, CEOs, executive heads in this country that I feel are doing things that are remarkable, that are probably a step or two ahead of where we're at, because I love a chase. I love a good chase. Growing up in sport and in playing and coaching, I have a tiny little competitive side. Yeah, love that. And that's part of that never satisfied kind of mentality that I actively seek out schools that I think are doing better job at an aspect of education than we are, and I go to them, and the first thing I say is, aside from lovely to meet you, good morning, is teach me everything. Yeah, love that. Because I don't know how else to learn. That you don't know what you don't know, right? No, that's it. And so I'm doing my very best to find the very best and learn and learn and learn.
You mentioned that sport and volleyball was something that was important to you growing up. How important is sport and creative subjects in primary schools?
I mean, I would absolutely say that the fact that our school values sport to the degree that it does, Youth Sports Trust Gold, Sainsbury's Gold, like making sure that we're providing the highest quality provision here, is one of the factors that leads to our academic success.
Love it.
That I think sometimes, it's easy to get caught in. It's easy to get caught in that cycle, right? Of they need to get the English, they need to get the maths. We need to get those reading, writing, and problem-solving results up.
Yeah.
But those things do not sit in isolation. And one surefire way to turn people away from lifelong learning is to narrow the curriculum in such a way that all we're doing is teaching reading, writing, and maths.
Yeah, that's one thing for me. I'll tell a story about how I used to play for professional football clubs, and when I used to come home at 4:30, I used to start training at like 6:30, and I always used to make sure that, okay, I get a little bit of work done, and then I needed to get that energy release out from 5:30 to leave my house at 5:30, get to training for 6:30, go through to 8:30, get back at 9:30, and then when I got home at 9:30, I was so much more intense in my academic studies. I was so much more like focused and driven and like
of course
wanting to do my maths homework or whatever homework it was. And it's powerful, it's not just me that felt like that.
No.
A lot of people, they need that endorphin release in order to then come back and do something more cognitive.
Yeah, and I think, when we were talking earlier about, what are some of the key differences between the Ontario education system and what is happening here in England. One of the key differences is the amount of things going on in secondary schools for children in Ontario versus in the UK. Okay. I would say that the secondary school experience for children in Ontario is far more holistic.
Okay.
So there is absolutely a focus on academics and making sure that children are involved in really high quality curricular experiences.
Yeah.
But the opportunities outside of the curriculum for children to use an array of talents, an array of gifts, and find their passion.
Yeah.
If you name a club or a society or a program that you would want to be a part of as a teenager, chances are it exists in Ontario high school, and it exists at all of them.
Yeah.
That there are environmental clubs, there are gay straight alliances, there are sports clubs for a range of sports. There are intramurals, like there are drama, there's art, there's music, there's something for everybody, and that the focus and that the driving force, like why do over 90% of Ontario children graduate with a high school diploma? Because it's not just about the academics. You can be less academic and still be successful, because we don't define success strictly by academic prowess in Ontario. And I think that Three Bridges, we're trying, my mission, I've been at Three Bridges now 7 years, and I guess what's happened is it's this little Ontario UK hybrid, where we absolutely have a value in academics, but it's not the only thing.
You created one of the things that fascinates me about the school. Every time I walk in, it's like there's new posters, there's a vibe, there's an energy through the staff, through the children, through the environment visually, around the values, the ethos around happiness. How have you gone about creating that in a school that was underperforming before you came in and so on?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, when I started at Three Bridges, it's, I would say on the whole, it's always been quite a friendly place.
Yeah.
I mean, from the very beginning, because I think we talk a lot in education, we talk about teachers, talk a lot about teaching assistants, but actually, I mean, even this is down to the moment you enter the school, the front office staff. So in my school, Amy and Linda, always a friendly face, always a lovely greeting. That ethos, it permeates everything we do.
Yeah.
So there was always like an undercurrent here of friendliness, of collegiality.
Which helps.
And so I was able to use that. I was able to start there.
Okay.
And I've always believed wholeheartedly that, if we want people learning, if we want people engaging, if we want people taking ownership, that they need to feel like that this is something meaningful to them. They need to be happy about it. There needs to be joy in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So using that as a starting point, I think, was quite important. But it started with the idea around expectations. So when I started here, same community, same challenges, same issues, different expectations. But it wasn't because the teachers here were bad teachers. They were great. They were awesome. Brilliant teachers.
Yeah.
But almost as you said, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And what you're doing in that moment, I would say most people believe what they're doing is what's best.
Sure.
And the reality was just at that time that what the school was doing curricularly, academically at that time was no longer what was best.
Yeah.
But they didn't know.
Sure.
And that's okay.
So how did you go about shifting that mindset so that they did know?
So I think part of it was absolutely in the way that we manage change. So I was fortunate. I came from Ontario. I'd been a part of what's called an OFIP school, an Ontario Focused Intervention Program. So that means that we were an underperforming school. By Ofsted standards in Ontario, we would have been special measures.
Got it.
Bad exam results, children, tons of behavior difficulties. Like it was challenging circumstances. But in Ontario, rather than firing the staff, getting rid of the head, parachuting in a whole bunch of new people, they throw money at the school. They throw literacy, numeracy trainers at the school. They make sure that there's a culture growing around excellence and improvement.
Yeah.
It's a very different approach to managing schools. So when I came here, I was fortunate that I'd had years of training around excellent practice, cutting edge, newest stuff in literacy, numeracy, the areas where we were struggling. So what we did was I introduced information to the staff in the form of kind of readable research.
Yeah.
And we took a collaborative approach to analyzing and identifying the areas within that research that we thought, hey, we're doing that and we're doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
But there's a few things in here that we don't know about, or we're uncertain about, or we're maybe not doing a great job of.
Yeah.
And rather than the culture being, well, let's do it, and I'm going to be in monitoring, scrutinizing, and observing you, the culture was, go away and have a play.
Love it.
I want you to take the information we've all just collectively agreed is stuff maybe we could improve upon.
Yeah.
I want you to go away. I want you to give it a try in your classroom. No fear of failure. Make mistakes.
Yeah. What is your philosophy on mistakes, and how do you manage people? How do you frame it in terms of being able to make mistakes and perhaps rightly or wrongly not making huge mistakes that are catastrophic to, well, not wrongly, but how do you go about making sure that it's not mistakes that are catastrophic to children? Yeah, I mean it's a tricky balance, right? And I think it's experience and having been there as a class teacher myself, knowing some balance. I remember when I was a really young athlete and I was looking at making Team Ontario. I was a young kid and this was like the pinnacle program to make. And there were coaches in the program that I was involved in who were involved in the Team Ontario program. And I remember going up to one of them one day and saying, I'm really nervous about the next match. And they said, well, why are you nervous? And I said, because I don't want to make any mistakes. I want to make sure it's incredible, perfect. And the coach, I was a young kid, 15 years old, maybe 16 years old, and the coach kind of patted me on the back and little coach smile as you do. And he said, I want to tell you something, Jeremy. He said, if we go out and watch you play a perfect match, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. You're not trying hard enough. Love it.
I said, what do you mean? If you're not making mistakes, you're not working hard enough. And again, something that stayed with me my entire life. And so I think we need to see, as that coach saw within me, we need to see mistake making as an absolutely vital part of growth.
For sure.
Has to be there. But we can't just be living on mistakes, right? There has to be a direction, there has to be a framework. We need to be moving forward. So I think that in our school, a lot of that comes through professional collaboration and professional study of learning and lessons.
Okay.
So it doesn't, you and I could go into a lesson and there are going to be things that we see that are the same, things we see as different, may come out with completely different views of what we saw. That's not helpful. And it puts people on edge. Right. But I think what is helpful is coming collectively up with a framework that is important, that's based on research and evidence. That could come from journal research, that could come from other schools and practical evidence. There's lots of places that can come from, but I think knowing that there's a framework, and then when we go in, it's not judging the way that is being delivered in every single moment of the day. It's looking at the impact of those decisions, the impact of the teaching on the learning and the learners. And that can be done collectively and collaboratively without a high stakes mechanism to drive people out.
You have a really interesting philosophy that is quite unique on observation and assessment. Tell us about your philosophy on that and how that impacts learning in your school.
Yeah, so I guess when I first came to England, I was shocked by a number of things. One of the things I was shocked by was the frequency at which professional people were being monitored and observed and scrutinized. And I thought the feeling that I got from those professionals was that they were untrusted, that they weren't capable, and really that actually they're being de-skilled and handcuffed, stifled by these processes. And it's funny because it's in the same way that people feel stifled by Ofsted or by high-stakes testing.
Right.
School leaders feel stifled by that, but then we're enacting the same similar kind of processes on teachers. It doesn't quite align for me. I never quite understood that. So the process, the protocols here at Three Bridges is that we are involved constantly in learning and lesson study. So there is a constant reflection based on research and knowledgeable others to move learning and teaching forward.
Yeah.
That's always happening in this school. But high stakes observation? No, I mean the experienced teachers in school, they get observed once every 3 years.
Yeah.
They don't, unless they request it,
Yeah.
which believe it or not, they do.
Yeah.
You know, teachers coming to the head teacher saying, hey, can you come in and take a look at this? Or going to a colleague and saying, I know you're really skilled at this area. Could you come in and do a bit of an audit on how I'm doing?
Yeah.
That culture exists in this school now, where people are requesting it. That's right.
Yeah.
But there is no need for me to be formally in grading lessons every term as we did historically.
Yeah.
Because that is stifling in itself.
Really
it's putting a framework around people that we don't need. And it's taking, I mean, we were talking earlier about the conditions requisite to flourish, right? And if we're constantly in monitoring, constantly in measuring, what we're actually doing is changing the soil.
Yeah.
And so, can flowers grow in that soil?
Yeah.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's not possible.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to get the greatest flowers in that soil? Absolutely not. You cannot grow courageous and creative professional people. You cannot grow the very best teachers when they are simply compliant.
Got it.
You can't have
create
it.
a culture.
That's right. It has to exist. If we want the next generation of school leaders in this country to be courageous, if we want them to be creative, if we want them to be bold, you know, be thinking about more than just English and maths results. If we want people thinking about all the isms in the world, racism, sexism, extremism, you know, if we want the kind of school leaders that are going to go out and try and create the kind of schools and young people that are going to change the world, well, we surely cannot be doing that under very strict compliance measures.
What's your proudest moment as a head teacher?
Wow. I guess I was talking with a group of visitors at the school yesterday, and I would say that in the transition, right, from class teacher to, you know, team leader, assistant head, deputy head, head teacher.
By the way, sorry to cut you. Did you always know that you were going to be a head teacher?
No, I don't think so. I think when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a teacher.
Right.
But I think when I was young, maybe like everybody, I don't know. I think I thought I was going to be a head teacher in the school that I went to as a kid, and I was going to work with the teachers that taught me, and I was going to be a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
And by 25, I'd be married and I have a house with a white picket fence. Like, you know, I don't know what I thought. It was probably later in my life, maybe when I was, I was still quite young, you know, maybe in my early 20s, when I realized that this is what I wanted to do. So, and in that journey, it's been, again, class teacher, responsible for children and making sure they have a great experience. Head teacher, responsible for the people that are responsible for our people. So my proud moments now, I mean, I love the kids in the school. You know, they're incredible. And I would say every single day there's a moment that is memorable, that I can go, oh, that was,
love it.
You know, I'm so glad I do this. But I guess in reality, the moments now that I'm feeling most proud about are moments when I see teachers, other leaders in the school, doing incredible things. So we lead open days now. So we have we do national training for English, for mathematics, for leadership, workload, well-being, early years. Sitting in the room, watching the teaching staff here deliver training and support in really collaborative ways to other teachers, to other schools, in ways that those teachers don't feel done to, in ways that they feel that they're moving forward, and that's been facilitated by adults that have worked here at our school. Those are my proudest moments. Watching other people. I guess, you know, they say you're not a leader until you're a leader who's created a leader who's created a leader.
Yeah. It's multiplication, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
So those I think now are the moments that I'm happiest about.
Perfect. Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you about all of the things education. We've got a few quick questions to round off, a few things that I want to learn from you.
Oh dear.
Okay, so we'll start with a few light questions like, what's your favourite holiday destination?
So far, Antigua.
Oh wow.
Brilliant. The people were remarkable, the food, the weather.
Yeah.
It was a perfect destination. I loved it.
I'm gonna write that down to go to Antigua.
Amazing, yeah. Beautiful.
And you've got a lot of books here, one which we've discussed earlier before we got on camera, which is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Sure.
What's one of the most powerful books that you've read?
Yeah, but it's funny you bring that book up because I really enjoyed the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There are lots of leadership books like that I read early on in my career. But at this moment in time, I think the one that stayed with me is actually the 8th habit.
Yeah.
And the 8th habit is powerful because it's saying that once you have found your voice, then the mission has to be to help other people find theirs.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean their voice needs to sound like your voice.
Yes.
It doesn't mean their school needs to look like your school or their leaders need to look like your leaders.
Yeah.
But it means helping them find, I think, their authentic voice. You know, the voice that lies within inside them, not the voice that lies within inside me. And that's always been tricky, but I think that's, at the moment, one of the most powerful things that I'm thinking through.
What's your favorite hobby?
It's always been volleyball.
Yeah.
Coaching volleyball, playing, coaching.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I miss the most while living in the UK. But I think travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to travel.
Favorite thing about your family?
Grit.
Okay.
They're just, nothing gets in the way. Nothing.
Yeah.
They're just
and you can
passionate,
tell that's just sort of
gritty.
through in your DNA.
Yeah, they just work.
Yeah.
They just work hard, and everything is a labor of love. And I'm grateful that that's been given to me.
Fascinating. And you then become the chief of schools. And what are the top 3 priorities that you would like to implement in education? Make a bigger and broader impact.
Wow. Okay, so the first would be a complete overhaul, redesign, revolution for the inspectorate. That I would challenge that's an effective way. The second thing would be probably around frameworks of leadership and pathways, professional pathways through education, so that the only way right now to earn more money and to have a different role in a school is to move into leadership. But actually, I don't believe that that's for everybody. And so I think that there should be professional pathways. I think that there should be leadership. I think there should be master teachers. I think there should be researchers, all built into pay structures and systems. So yeah, so I'd say Ofsted, leadership and professional pathways. The third thing would probably be the removal of the stakes that exist in testing in this country. So I'm not suggesting on any level that we would remove testing. I think that it has its place, but the stakes of the testing would not be what they are today. I think that they need to exist and they need to trigger supports and development and growth, and but I definitely do not think that they should be used in the way that they're being used today.
Okay, fascinating.
Those would be my 3.
And what advice would you give to an aspiring leader, one that's maybe aspiring to make a really powerful and positive impact in education? What would be your parting word of advice to them?
Read. Go and experience other schools. Go and experience success. What you think, like, see other schools, see other things in action. Learn from what to do and what not to do. But the overarching thing, dare to be different.
Yeah.
Don't just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean that's the way it needs to be done.
I love it. And we'll add the links at the bottom of the video. But where can people find out more about you and your school?
Yeah, so just, I guess our website, 3bridgesprimary.co.uk. You can read all about the different stuff that our school is up to, our different philosophies in education, and our publications tab. And I tweet at Hannay Jeremy. And yeah, so follow me, follow the school, be great.
And your tweets are remarkable, by the way. So I definitely encourage anybody to get with Jeremy Hannay on Twitter.
Amazing. Hey,
absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.